Boy, have we got a lot of stuff to talk about on the Goggler podcast. Bahir and Uma with you as always. We're going to be reviewing Wonder Man, Send Help, Mercy, and Scarlet. But before we get into our reviews, it's award season. The Oscar nominations are out, and we're not going to go through every single nomination. But Bahir and I have been talking about how out of touch the Oscars have been for many, many, many years. And in 2026, it feels like this is what we've always wanted with these nominations, right, Bahir? Like mainstream movies that have made actual money at the box office are leading the nominations. Also, not just mainstream, but a horror film has broken the record for most nominations ever. I mean, sure, you can call Sinners a lot of things, and people put labels like elevated horror and blah blah, but you know what? When it boils down to it, it's a fucking vampire movie, and stop trying to elevate it by calling it elevated horror, because if you've heard Ryan Coogler talk about this movie, he is a genre guy.
I think the attempt to give Sinners an addendum to the horror moniker just makes it feel like you're trying to make excuses for it.
It's all of those jackasses that be like, oh, I don't read comic books, I read graphic novels.
Graphic
Fuck
novels.
off.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest surprise for me is what you were talking about earlier with regards to the kind of movies that were given their kudos, right? For the best film, things like, okay, maybe Sinners is not so surprising, but I've spoken to a lot of people that were most surprised with F1 getting a nomination.
I know some people were upset about it, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck you guys, right? It was...
Yeah.
F1 for me is as mainstream as The Sting was 30 years ago.
Yes.
Or 40 years ago, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just that we have a different definition of what mainstream is.
That's the problem, right? What people are considering like mainstream and or popular films now, they almost don't feel like it holds a candle to something like The Sting, something like, dare I say, The Godfather. Sure, those were completely different films and they were told in a completely different time, but the idea is that the Oscars should celebrate the popular movies of the time and not give kudos to like, oh, this is an Oscar-worthy film.
Man, there is such tremendous artistry in F1. It should celebrate cinematic artistry, and what Joseph Kosinski did with that movie, how he captured racing in that film, was revolutionary, and that's important. It's the same reason the first Avatar was nominated for Best Picture, because of what James Cameron accomplished, right? But
Yeah.
like, I think the Oscars went down a path where they were like, oh, let's recognize the movies that the box office doesn't. And so you did get many, many years when it was Anora and the kind of indie movies that got great critical acclaim, but no one actually watched. Meanwhile,
The Artist.
exactly. Sinners, one battle after another, F1, Marty Supreme, Frankenstein, if it was in cinemas, is, I think, a staple mainstream style film. Sure, there is Guillermo del Toro artistry involved, but if you look at the narrative arc, if you look at the production value, it's old Hollywood style filmmaking. And so, yeah, it's movies that have box office. I mean, I think they're really trying hard to win back the mass audience.
I think the one film, if anything, the one film I was most surprised with getting the Best Picture nom was Train Dreams.
Train Dreams is probably the most art house picture on that list, right? Even more than Hamnet.
Oh, completely. I absolutely loved Train Dreams, but when you put it up against something like F1, Frankenstein, Marty Supreme, one battle after another, you're like, oh, this is a strange group of films for Train Dreams to be a part of. I'm glad it's there. I was going to propose to you, if this shift, or at least perceived shift in nominations, is because of what the Academy has sort of softly made its members do, which is to watch all the movies that they are voting for. There is a very concerted push.
So they can't force people to watch all of the movies, but there has been a concerted push, you're right, with the Academy going, fucking watch these movies before you vote for them, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't know, how it works is everyone from the different branches votes for the people who also get nominated. So
Yes.
it's not like there is a central committee that just randomly sits down in a room and picks what movies get nominated. And I think that's what a lot of people think happens. But actually, it's all of the actors who fill out a ballot. And so anybody's name can be thrown out there. And then there is a very complex and complicated voting process. It's not just the person who gets the most votes gets onto the nomination list. It's called preferential voting, and it's a lot more than we can explain in this podcast because I've read it many times to be able to understand how it works. It is fucked up. But it's a system, all right? And so that's part of the reason why Guillermo del Toro's on the list. Like, if you watch Frankenstein didn't have the kind of buzz that a lot of the other movies did. And it's a good movie. It just didn't have the same kind of buzz as One Battle or Sinners. However, Guillermo del Toro is the most popular man in Hollywood. Like, he is everywhere. Like, if you go on your Instagram or your TikTok, there isn't a single Q&A session that Guillermo del Toro is not involved in or moderating or answering questions for, or there isn't a single party where he's in attendance, making tacos, singing La Bamba. Like, he is everywhere.
He loves being a part of the Oscar buzz, essentially, right? He loves being a part of the Oscar machine.
And I think people like him, and so they'll vote for him.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of it has to do with the fact that you are well loved in Hollywood, and that goes a long way. Because yes, believe it or not, performances and great direction aside, it is also very much a popularity contest.
And I think that's a big part of it that we in the rest of the world don't see. If you're in the US during Oscar season, there is a lot of what they call FYC ads everywhere for your consideration advertising. They're on billboards, they're in newspapers, because everybody who is a part of the Academy, 95% of them are based in Los Angeles. So I guess the big change this year is that the Academy has made a very significant push to getting their members to watch the films that are being nominated or that are available for nomination. So maybe that's a sign of the changing of this thing, right? Because I can't remember which publication does it, but someone does like a...
Oh, it's my favorite thing to read every year. It's the Hollywood Reporter, and they do the anonymous Oscar voter, and they usually get 2 or 3 people from different branches. And it is sometimes the most unhinged stuff.
Unhinged is one, but I think on some level as well, if you read the previous years, you realize that it's just high school. For example, the big one this year was that, people didn't like the wall-to-wall coverage of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, so they decided, fuck those guys, I'm not going to vote for them.
And sure, Wicked Part 2 wasn't the same, right? It wasn't as good. The second act of the musical, the original musical on stage, isn't as good as the first act anyway. And so the movie's reception box office wasn't as good as the first one. And maybe a lot of Academy voters felt, hey, we gave them 10 nominations the last time already. And this year's lineup was very solid. So there was a lot more competition, even in the best actress, best supporting actress categories, right? I will say there were a couple of things that I felt were tragic snubs. I've got no love lost for Wicked. It's done. It's had its day. It's made billions of dollars. Good for them, right? Jay Kelly and Knives Out. I think Knives Out really deserved an original screenplay nomination. I think that screenplay was phenomenal, especially with the way it handled the religiosity of it, not just the whodunit mystery, but all of the themes surrounding this particular one, I thought was absolutely brilliant. And I felt it was robbed of a nomination. I think that both J. Kelly and Knives Out kind of falls into the Hollywood hating Netflix at the moment category.
So you think it was personal?
Yes, Netflix got a lot of nominations anyway for Frankenstein, but I think it's Guillermo del Toro that bolstered that as opposed to Netflix. But with the Warner takeover, with all of this stuff that's happening at the moment, I think Netflix is getting the cold shoulder. Like, honestly, man, Adam Sandler was amazing in that.
Yeah, agree.
Also, I know he was in it for so little, but Billy Crudup in that fucking 10-minute scene was genius.
When they were at the bar, I had to pull that back to rewatch it.
Right? When he was reading the menu. Fuck.
I rewatched that scene at least 4 times. I just went back. I called my wife over to rewatch
Just watch this scene.
I was
Even
like,
if
just
you don't watch the whole movie.
I said, I know you're not in the mood for this, but just watch this. This is capital A acting.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Those are the only things that I felt were like, I mean, sure, Jesse Plemons, but that always happens. Like every year, there are some actors that are left out, and some people feel that they were hard done by. And yes, that's always there. But I think in those situations, it's being on the ground, it's doing the work. I think the PR machine, unfortunately, worked against Paul Mescal. Because Paul Mescal is off shooting his Beatles movie, so he's not in LA doing the rounds, shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And Jessie Buckley is there, right? She's Golden Globe, she's doing the rounds, interviews, Good Morning America, all of this stuff. So, yeah. I mean, now the campaign starts for how do you get the votes for who's going to win.
I think the other thing as well to keep in mind with regards to who gets the votes is the idea that the front runner for the best films are both Warner movies. Well, Warner's got 2, right? One Battle After Another and Sinners. So where does the studio put their money?
Well,
do they divide up the Oscar budget equally between the two, or do they pick their favorite child?
For me, that's the biggest flex of 2026. The fact that the co-CEOs of Warner Brothers had their jobs on the line to come back with one of the best lineups in any year, and then to lead the Oscars with the movies that they had their jobs on the line for.
Yeah.
Phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
For me, your next year punya bonus, performance bonus, better be through the roof lah.
For those guys, they've essentially proven to be hitmakers, right? 2025 was great for them. So Zaslav really has to sort of earn back that loyalty, because Zaslav was going to fire these two. Zaslav was going to fire these two because they greenlit One Battle After Another and Sinners. And Zaslav didn't think that those were going to be big studio movies. So what is your... Let's just go with Best Picture. What is your gut saying will win, and what do you wish will win?
I think that there is going to be a divide between Best Picture and Best Director. I think lah. I would like Ryan Coogler to take Best Director. Ideally, I would like him to take both lah. But I think Ryan Coogler might take Best Director, and One Battle might take Best Picture. I think there is a chance One Battle can take both, and the reason for that being the hellhole that is America right now, and how it directly ties into what happens in One Battle. It's literally ice.
You don't think that there will be a pushback on that? You don't think that because it's so close to home now that people want to avoid it and give the awards to something that's a little more... I was going to say hopeful, but then I'm looking at this list going, I don't know how many of these are particularly hopeful.
Not just that, but I feel like this is their protest vote, right? Because a lot of these actors stay silent because they're afraid of their jobs, etc., etc. And so they make a vote. It was just like how the documentary on Palestine won last year. So many people were silent about Palestine and Gaza. And there were very few actors that actually spoke out, but seemingly a majority voted for this documentary. And maybe that was their way of showing support. I don't know. But I think One Battle has the zeitgeist on its side. But I enjoyed Sinners a lot more. And I think as an accomplishment, I think Sinners was a tremendous film. Like as a narrative accomplishment.
Yes. Yeah.
Whew, yeah. The kind of things he does and the layers and the vampires and the flash forwards and the barn sequence and the fucking music. Like, it's crazy lah. Like that screenplay, I want to read that screenplay actually. I wonder if it's up online somewhere because I think that would be really cool to read. So I think that for me is probably like the biggest thing. I think there are a couple of surprises in that a lot of horror is on the list. Sinners, Frankenstein is horror, Weapons
got something, right?
Yeah. Amy Madigan got a nomination. Also, I'm really dumb. I had no idea. Amy Madigan is Ed Harris's wife.
Right.
That's crazy. But yeah, anyway, so horror seems to have made big inroads at this year's Oscars, which is very, very cool. So the one question. This is the only thing that I'm really interested in about this year's Oscars and whether or not they will break tradition. Throughout Oscar history, the only person younger than 30 years old, the only male actor younger than 30 to win a Best Actor Oscar, Adrian Brody for The Pianist.
Yes.
They always vote for the old people. They don't like giving it to young men, but they love giving it to young women. The theory, or the working theory being that all of these old actors hate the fact that there are these young, handsome fellas who are stealing all their work, who are more sexy, good-looking, and virile than they are, right?
Yeah.
And instead, they vote for all the women they want to sleep with. I mean, that's the kind of base Psych 101 reasoning behind it. Do you think Chalamet, like I haven't seen Marty Supreme, so I don't know how good his performance is, but do you think Chalamet has the momentum? I mean, he's been nominated for an Oscar. This is his third nomination, which is already like a record of sorts.
I think they might. Only because he is undeniable. Yes, he is hot in terms of industry, market and all that, but
he's also really fucking good lah.
Yes, but I think currently where it is now, he is undeniable. You know, he's 2-3 years running of just banger after banger. He's got Dune coming out this year, and I think the other people on that list, Leo, I don't think deserves it for one battle after another.
Same.
I think Ethan Hawke was fantastic in Blue Moon, but it's not a sexy role, so I don't think people would give it. I haven't seen Secret Agent. I love Wagner Moura, but again, same thing. I think he is not as recognizable as a name. I think Michael B. Jordan may come close, but I feel like Timmy is just undeniable right now. I think
his biggest contest is Michael B. Jordan.
Yes, agreed. I think as a producer, if you look at that name list and you go, actually, Timothée Chalamet has brought a lot of young people to the screens, right? He's the one person on this list that TikTok idiots will go to the cinemas to watch. Yeah, I don't know. I think it could be Timmy's. I think Timmy could take it.
That was my only question, and I think that's probably the most interesting thing to watch out for, because I don't have an answer to that. Oscars are in March. It's coming up soon. Meanwhile, there are a whole bunch of other awards things to get through. Screen Actors Guild, Directors Guild, Producers Guild, all of this stuff. Like, we've had the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice, and it's just basically months of parties where everyone gets drunk and has a good time, which all caps off with the Oscars, the biggest night of all. And we'll be watching. I think it's going to be streaming here on Disney Plus. So it's going to be very easy to access as well, which is cool. All right, Oscars out of the way. Let's get to our reviews. There's a whole bunch of stuff in cinemas this week and next. Let's kick things off with Mercy, the Chris Pratt in a chair movie. If you've seen this trailer, it's a screen life thriller. If you don't know what a screen life thriller is, It is a format that was kind of pioneered by the director Timo Bekbanitov, and you've seen Missing, you've seen Searching, maybe. Everything kind of takes place from the perspective of the screen. And this one is kind of similar. Chris Pratt has been accused of a crime that he may or may not have committed. It's set in the immediate future where there is a sort of Minority Report type situation where an AI judge presides over criminals in Los Angeles. You are given the opportunity to make a case for your innocence within 90 minutes. Otherwise, you will be executed by the chair. And so in this one, Chris Pratt is strapped to a chair and he has to use his AI judge friend and computer systems, voice activated computer systems, to trawl through evidence to prove his innocence. I don't know about you, man. I think the screen life thriller genre is dead. I think we're done. I think War of the Worlds came out and everyone went, this is stupid. Like, Missing and Searching were very, very clever because they really stuck to the format and found clever ways to use computer screens and phone screens. I think Mercy is really stretching that idea, lah.
I think somebody else should do it. I think at this point, I think somebody else needs to do it.
I think nobody wants to do it because it's not that great an idea.
I think it's interesting as an approach, as a concept. I think it's interesting, but I think somebody else needs to do it. I think it cannot just be Timur anymore. The problem is because he's so close to it, right? He says he was the one that came up with it. It was his thing, and that he originated the idea. That's great. You had 3 shots at it. This is your 4th. Maybe give it to someone else. I think at this point, I want to see someone else attempt to do that, whatever it may be. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it was fine. I think it completely feels like a Prime Video film.
Which it is.
Which it is. It will be a Prime Video release because it's released by MGM. But, like, I wasn't bored. I wasn't annoyed. I didn't think any of it was stupid. I think it was lame. But for, what was it, 2 hours? Okay,
90 minutes.
90 minutes.
They tell you there's a fucking countdown
oh, that's true.
on
You're
the
right.
screen.
Yeah. 90
Slightly
minutes.
longer than 90 minutes.
Yeah. It falls completely within the, okay lah.
I didn't think it was stupid, but I was bored because it didn't have me hooked with clever things as much as Searching or Missing. So even in Searching or Missing, if you've seen those movies, it truly understands how mobile phones and computers work and then functions within the limitations that they've set themselves up with.
Yep.
And I think that's what made the tension so interesting, because you couldn't see what the computer couldn't see or what you can't usually see on a phone. My problem with this one is suddenly Chris Pratt will be like, oh, access these video archives. And the AI judge, played by Rebecca Ferguson, very weirdly, will show footage of something that happened in his past because his daughter was filming it. And I'm like, whoa, this is a very serious fight between father and mother. Why is the daughter filming it? It just feels like a stretch. It feels really awkward that this footage exists somewhere. And I get it. We live in a world where everything is filmed. However, it's not necessarily the case within our own homes. We're not shooting every second of our own lives.
Yeah.
Unless you're some content creator or influencer lah. But that's what I felt weird. And I felt like that kind of pulled me out of the movie because it broke the logic of the film.
Sure.
And then there was Rebecca Ferguson's performance, which I found very, very weird because she almost seemed too pleased with herself that she was going to get this guy. And I'm like, wait, you're supposed to be this AI impartial judge. Shouldn't you be a little colder and feelingless? I think that would have worked better for me. Like, there were these little things that kept screaming at me and pulling me out of the movie.
It's a movie that is there that people will forget within about 3 days after having seen it. And then it will just show up on streaming. It's one of those things where I think when it shows up on streaming, people will forget that they'd already seen it in the cinema.
Also, you have Chris Pratt. Don't tie him to a chair for the whole 90 minutes. Like, there's a bit at the end when he's out of the chair.
Yeah.
But he is Chris Pratt. He is still one of the most bankable, whether or not he's your favorite Chris, it doesn't matter, but he is still one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood, and you have him tied to a chair for the bulk, for 95% of this movie. That's crazy. For me, Mercy is just a bit of a meh. It's a bit of a fail. I just didn't enjoy it. Like, it's not a terrible film, I was just incredibly bored. That said, Sam Raimi has a new movie in cinemas, and this was a lot of fun. This is called Send Help. And it stars Dylan O'Brien and the very, very great Rachel McAdams. And it isn't a Sam Raimi horror. I would say it's a Sam Raimi psychological thriller with all of the signature styles of Sam Raimi. So Sam Raimi being the director of Evil Dead and Multiverse of Madness. And if you've seen any one of his movies, you know he has a very distinct style. Like, even in his Spider-Man movies, his 3 Spider-Man movies, he leaned into the little body horror stuff, the crash zooms, all of those Dutch angles. He loves doing that stuff, right? And all of that is in this movie. It's very much a Sam Raimi movie, but man, this movie goes to some dark fucking places, and I had an absolute blast. Rachel McAdams plays this woman who works in a corporation, and she is the one that does all the work, but the fucking finance bros get all the credit. She is promised a vice president position by her boss, but when he passes and his son takes over the business, she is looked over for the sake of his golf bro. To make it up to her, to like appease the situation before they have to let her go, they take her on a trip to Bangkok because they need her help with an upcoming merger. On that flight, there's bad weather, the plane crashes, everyone dies except for the boss, played by Dylan O'Brien, and Rachel McAdams. And they're stranded on an island. It also happens that Rachel McAdams is a huge fan of Survivor, the TV series, the reality show. She also applied to be on Survivor, so she has the skills required to survive on a deserted island. Meanwhile, the asshole boss, and he really is a fucking asshole, the asshole boss has no idea what to do, and so you can imagine what comes next. Like, that premise is already golden, and then it just goes down this slippery slope of madness, and it is so much fun.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you not like this movie?
Did I not like this movie? Look, I think you have to know what you're going into with this film. I thought it was fine, generally because I'm not a fan of Raimi's borderline B-grade style horror movies.
Right.
There's that. But I think it was fine. I agree with you. I think Rachel McAdams was fan-fucking-tastic. I think her playing against type was great. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those films that are just there la, like there la.
Huh.
It's not like mind-blowing for me.
Interesting. I would watch this movie again. I had such a good time with this film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I thought that the narrative, the arc of the characters, I thought it was really cunning in how it constantly toyed with my emotions with regards to whose side I'm supposed to be on. Like, my allegiances were shifting all the time. Like, there are some twists, and I think if you've seen any movies, you figured out the twist. I mean, like, I'm sure you, like me, figured out the twist within the first 20 minutes of the film. We knew what was going to happen. As soon as something gets pointed out, I'm like, oh, wait,
There's something there. Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, the twist wasn't the cool thing. Like, even that reveal was unimportant. It was just how I was constantly at odds with myself as to whose side I should be on. And I thought they played that really well.
I agree with you. I saw that and I thought that was cool. I still didn't care for it. Like, as a film, as a story, as a 90-minute thing, I just didn't care for it. I don't know what else they could have done that would have made me more interested in it. I don't know. I just was not on board from point one, I think.
What about the performances, though?
Oh, I think the performances were fantastic. I thought Rachel McAdams was like unhinged, and that was really interesting to see. She wasn't, sorry, no, I'll take that back. She wasn't unhinged. She was completely in control of the situation, but she had sort of like an unhinged undertone to it all, which I thought was stellar acting and stellar writing for her character.
Actually, even Dylan O'Brien, I thought the way he played it, it starts off as a cliche, two-dimensional asshole finance bro kind of guy. Even his character evolution is very subtle and nuanced and untrustworthy. And I think that was really cool. Because there were so many moments when I was like, oh, he's changed. Has he changed? Oh, yes, he has changed. Oh, no, wait, no, he hasn't. Oh, wait, yes, he has. And like,
Mm,
and it wasn't even them toying with you for the sake of toying with you. It felt like earned character progression.
sure.
And so, in
yes.
that sense, I felt that the writing here was very, very tight because even those reveals and the twists, and even some questions I had initially, were addressed by the time the movie was done.
Yes.
It felt like there wasn't any narrative holes. And especially when it comes to any kind of horror or thriller, the single narrative hole is enough to like have the whole thing unravel. I mean, that was the problem I had with Mercy as well. Like, there were just too many points when I was like, but then how? What? And it just completely required too much suspension of disbelief. Like, for me, Send Help is what you get when an established director / writer is doing something like this, because you can see the skills on display. So there's an interview recently about Send Help, and the interviewer asks Sam Raimi about this moment that they're in the cave. I don't know if you've seen this. So it's raining really heavily,
Yes.
and their campsite is being washed away, and both Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams have to go and hide out in a cave. And so the interviewer is like, hey, in the foreground, we see a spider web and a spider crawl past. And was that just a sly nod to Spider-Man? And Sam Raimi goes, no, actually, in our test screenings, the question was asked, well, that cave looks really cozy. Why don't they just stay there the whole time?
Right.
And so to create a sense of foreboding, what they said was, we just included a spider to add a sense of danger. And I remember watching it thinking, as soon as they walked into that cave, as soon as I saw that spiderweb and spider, I was like, oh, wait a minute. That looks like a dodgy cave. Like, that's all it took.
Mm,
And I'm like, wow, what a simple solution
mm,
that completely changed the tone of that moment.
yeah.
And I think that comes with experience.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, the difference between something like Send Help and Mercy, I know they're two very different movies, but they're both at their core thrillers. And I think the difference is just skill set.
I think Send Help is a very specific movie. So if you are in that frame of mind, if that's what you want, then I think that's the movie for you. Maybe I wasn't in the right frame of mind. Then again, I generally don't like those films, these kinds of movies anyway. So it's just me.
Send Help is now showing in Malaysian cinemas. Next week, however, there's going to be a brand new anime by legendary director Mamura Hosada. He, of course, did The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, most recently Belle, and this one is called Scarlet. I'm quite surprised it's actually opening in Malaysian cinemas. I wasn't expecting it to. I think it premiered at Venice. It tells the story. I don't even know where to begin with this one, but I will say this. Shakespeare's Hamlet seems to be undergoing a kind of renaissance. Like, in 2025 alone, you had Hamnet, Scarlet, and I think even Riz Ahmed did his version of Hamlet as well. So there were 3 Hamlet-themed movies out in 2025. I have no explanation as to why. But just like how Belle was loosely based on Beauty and the Beast, Scarlet has all of these threads that have been pulled from Hamlet. However, it is this strange story that's set in purgatory, that has elements of time travel and tackles life, death, revenge, forgiveness. It's a lot of things lah. It's a little bit overwrought. I think the movie begins magnificently. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And then I think it goes off the rails by being really overwrought and highly emotional. The third act could have been shorter, because by the time we reached that point, I was like, I get it already.
I just want to go back to the Japanese film we reviewed in the last episode when we spoke about how that movie was underwritten. I feel like Scarlet was well overwritten.
Agreed.
Everything needs to be stated. Every emotion, every thought, every feeling, every consequence needs to be stated for the audience. And I just felt like that took too much out of the movie. Again, this is an anime, so also not for me, but I will say there were a lot of that movie that was beautiful. I didn't care for any of the characters. I didn't care for any of the writing. But man, that was beautiful to watch though.
Oh no, I totally agree. I think visually it was absolutely stunning. And also he does this thing visually that's very interesting in that he is changing the look of his protagonist at different times. And I don't mean giving her a new haircut, changing the look. I mean in animation style. It's used almost as a surrogate for her emotions, but the Scarlet we see as a child versus the Scarlet we see as a teenager versus the Scarlet we see in purgatory, they look like they're stylistically unique characters. And I think that's a very interesting animated decision, which is quite cool. Like, that was beautiful for me. Like, I was visually totally enthralled. Like, there were all of these beautiful things to look at and some clever concepts with regards to what happens in this purgatory type area. But it's just the narrative that felt very, very drawn out. I don't want to say it isn't focused, because the revenge storyline is front and center. It's just that it feels so repetitive that at times you wish they would move on to something else.
Yes.
Like, there are some really interesting ideas here with regards to how he's adapted Hamlet, with introducing a paramedic from the future who is a pacifist. I think all of these concepts are quite cool, but there are some times when he trips into the philosophical and speaks in these vague platitudes that kind of bring the movie to a screeching halt. And that's what I think the problem is. I think the pacing is really affected by all of that stuff.
This also goes back to what we were talking about with regards to a lot of Japanese content, in that they don't traditionally follow the 3-act structure. Because thinking back, I'm not sure I can break this movie down into a 3-act structure. It feels like a softer, lower peaks, like 5-act structure almost, because there were a lot of beats of things that happened that moved the story along, but then they pause for, like you said, the not necessarily exposition dump, but just this long moments of platitude that I think just really puts the movie to a halt.
I mean, the visuals are magnificent, and we all know Mamoru Hosada knows how to craft a beautiful visual. But I just felt like I wasn't emotionally invested in this movie as I'd like to be.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree.
Not a bad film, just not his best. And given his track record, Hosada has made better movies. I really enjoyed Belle. I thought that was a very clever adaptation of Beauty and the Beast, using ideas of tech and social media and all of this stuff. And I think that's what was missing from Scarlet. I think as a Hamlet adaptation, he didn't go far enough or didn't do anything interesting enough.
Just something new. There's like a new version of that I think was missing. Yeah.
Yes.
No, you're
exactly.
right. Yeah.
But Scarlet opens in Malaysian cinemas next week. We know Hosada fans will go check it out. If you are, a Hosada fan. Let us know what you think of this movie and where you think it ranks among his anime efforts. All right. Finally, our final review for this podcast is a brand new MCU TV series. This one is called Wonder Man. All 8 episodes dropped simultaneously. It stars Ben Kingsley, Sir Ben Kingsley, and Yahya Abdul Mateen II, who you would know from Watchmen, of course, where I believe he did win an Emmy for Watchmen, did he? He's an Emmy Award winner, but I can't remember for what show. He plays the character Wonder Man, who in the comics is an actor by profession as well. However, this falls under the Marvel Spotlight category of releases, which is Werewolves by Night kind of stuff. Very character-driven stories that don't necessarily fall into the bigger MCU narrative. And it isn't a superhero show. It is, I think, a cross between the studio, the boys, and what it takes to be an actor in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's more Hacks and Barry than it is Spider-Man. And I think you need to know that going into this. Bahir and I have slightly differing opinions on this one, actually. You didn't hate it. You liked it. You just don't think it's as great as I do. I enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed WandaVision. And WandaVision remains at the top of my MCU TV series list. Their TV shows have been a real mixed bag, and of late they haven't had anything phenomenal. But for me, Wonder Man is right up there with one of the best things they've ever made.
That is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I really enjoyed this.
I won't say I didn't enjoy it, but I didn't see the point of it. I didn't see the point of 4 hours of this.
8 episodes, 30 minutes each, so 4 hours.
I didn't understand the point of 4 hours of this. I think I would have been up for it if it was just a one-off, like a one thing, 90-minute thing. Like if all of this was just 90 minutes and it still didn't do anything different from what it does now, I think I would have been more for it.
I liked the length of it because I was immersed in this world that they created. Like, I thought the characters, I thought the relationship between our two leads were fantastic. The chemistry between Yahya Abdul Mateen and Ben Kingsley is amazing. Like, their bromance, burgeoning bromance, if you will, was a lot of fun. Like, I enjoyed. I was very engaged with all of that. And also because I think they're both great actors, so the characters are what drew me into it. And I agree with you in that from the point of view of being an MCU show, I don't see the point of it. But is that why you don't see the point of it, in that you're looking at it as an MCU show?
Yes, and I think that's kind of why I feel that the length was a problem, because the reason I kept watching this at 2 in the morning was because the next one is when they're going to go Wonder Man. Nope, not this episode. It's that next episode is when he's going to go Wonder Man. Nope, it's not this episode. It's the next one he's going to go Wonder Man. I'm watching an MCU show called Wonder Man and he never goes Wonder Man. And I just, that was my issue with it. I was just like, okay, maybe it's the next one. Okay, maybe it's the next one. Okay, it's the last episode. He has to go Wonder Man now. He has to go do something. Nope. So for me, that was the problem. Because this is an MCU TV show where the character is called Wonder Man and he's got these latent superpowers that he's trying to hide. And the show ends. And I'm just like, fuck you.
Okay, so let me tell you my approach to this. My approach to this was not that. My approach to this was when Tom King does Mr. Miracle, or Tom King does a 12-issue Vision series.
Yep.
It's not the Vision being a superhero, and it's not the Vision flying off with the Avengers and doing stuff. And so I went in with that in mind already. And I think that's why I enjoyed it for what it was, because for me, this is a side graphic novel based on a character I know nothing about that just so happens to take place within this Marvel universe.
My expectations would be lower if it was a graphic novel. Like, I'd have loved this as a graphic novel. I would love this as a graphic novel. But because it's a TV show that's been pushed and trailered and marketed as an MCU Wonder Man and I'm not getting any MCU-ness out of it, I just feel shortchanged.
I think if you're expecting superhero fare, you will be very, very disappointed with this.
And I think in some ways, you can't blame people for being disappointed in this because they're expecting superhero fare because it's an MCU show.
Like for me, the other thing that I loved about the show was just the production of it, in the
Mm.
sense that it feels like one of the most well produced. I mean, it feels expensive. It feels like it has a vision. I'm really excited because the director of this and the creator, one of the co-creators of this, is actually doing Spider-Man Brand New Day. And he was the director of Shang-Chi. And so that kind of fills me with some confidence for Spider-Man because he's taken a very 70s look and vibe to the way the thing is shot, with the color palette, with the camera work, like the zoom out from the Hollywood sign, like all the kind of stuff we used to see in older movies. Like that approach is very cool. And I thought the series has a distinct look and style, which is cool. And you don't necessarily see that because it looks almost like directorial vision. And if there's one thing the MCU has done, it's kind of flattened that, right? So unless you're a really big name established director working for them, it's going to be templated MCU look. And this thing didn't look like that. And I thought that was really cool and really well produced. Music choices also absolutely fantastic. Like I was really invested in all of the decisions that were made in this show. Like for me, as a package, performances were great. Music was great. Look was really cool. The exact opposite of your reaction. I liked that it was so disconnected from the MCU because it made it feel fresh.
It's not so much that I wanted it to be more connected to the MCU. I think I just wanted it to be more MCU. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need She-Hulk to show up. I don't need to see Daredevil or the Punisher pop by. But I was expecting a superhero show lah. I think that was my frustration, that I didn't get a superhero-based show.
What you got was this deep meditation, almost an insider's look as to what it takes to be an actor in Hollywood. I gotta ask though, did you enjoy how they played around with that stuff? Because it felt very like the studio. Like there are some interesting, clever cameos in this one with actors playing themselves or multiverse versions of themselves in very, very clever ways. Like all of those side stories, I was really invested in. There's an episode called The Doorman that I thought was absolutely fantastic that doesn't feature any of our main characters. It's a side plot that takes place in episode 5.
That was important because there's a thing that happens in episode 1 or 2 that required that episode.
And also, it doesn't feel like an episode 7 flashback in Netflix either. This one
Yes.
feels like it's established and important storytelling.
That was cute. I think a lot of it was cute. I liked the actor's life, the Hollywood actor's life version of the story. I appreciate it. But yeah, it's still an MCU show that wasn't an MCU show lah. And I think that was the problem. Because I kept putting on the next episode thinking that there will be some superhero-ing happening. And that was where my problems lie.
Kesimpulannya, in conclusion, if you are going into this, like Bahir, expecting any level of MCU-ness, you are going to be very disappointed. However, if you are looking for a Hacks-Barry-esque studio-like study on the inner workings of Hollywood and the superhero film, then you might have a much better time like I did.
Yeah.
That is the caveat.
Yes.
There we go. Wonder Man, all 8 episodes are now showing on Disney Plus. Check it out. Let us know what you think. You know how to reach out. Also, talk to us about Send Help, Mercy, Scarlet when you do finally watch it. Give us your thoughts on Oscar nominations. Keep this conversation going. We're on Instagram on @gogglermy. You can also reach out via email, podcast@goggler.my, or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline, 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.